Hello, everyone. We are live after an extremely exciting Survivor Calgary episode, our fourth one for the season of Brains, Brawn, Belligerence. Kendal, how do you feel after that tribal council?
I feel like my heart rate is still a little elevated after.
So we're
Yeah.
having a little bit of a watch party here right now, with including a few people who are in the episode. I'll show them all to you briefly. Um, and yeah, no, everyone who was involved with the tribal council in any way at all, they were mentioning how their palms were sweaty. They already knew the outcome, but they were still kind of shaken. Um, yeah, pretty wild episode. Are you happy the way it went, the way it did?
I am. I think that I like Sydney a lot, a fellow astrology queen, and I am excited to see more of her game. So I'm pleased that that's how it went. Obviously, it's sad to see Haley go. Um, and I like the belligerence group on the whole. Yeah, Haley was a fun person. I'm sad to see her go, but I'm happy that Sydney got to stay. So
Yeah, Haley definitely had a lot more game in her. Eliminated by one vote. Pretty tragic here. Let's talk about that tribe swap. We see this very weird kind of mirrored tribe swap. I promise it was random. They all drew from the hat at the same time. We see on one tribe 4 bronze, 2 belligerents, 1 brain. On the other tribe 4 brain, 2 belligerents, 1 brawn. I guess we can start by talking about that Latrins tribe, the one with the 4 bronze. What are you thinking of the dynamics there so far?
yeah, it's interesting. I think in the last recap pod, I was saying I'd like to see the bronze split up and a little bit more excitement there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Will be interesting to see if Connell remains a key target if that stays true. Yeah, the dynamics are interesting. I think T Daddy and Craig, if they can stick together, will be a good, strong pair on
You
that
mean T
new
Daddy and
blue
Eric,
tribe.
I assume.
Yes,
Yes.
I do. Sorry. Yes, I do.
T Daddy
Yes,
and
I
Craig,
do.
same guy.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so we see on the Latrins tribe, we see Katie kind of as this scapegoat for the time being, but we do also see the Braun tribe try and bring in the 2 belligerents members on kind of that get brains out plan. We see Shervin talk about this. We see Connell, Chelsea, and Eric talk about it all together. Um, but we see Kayla, who wants to thin out the Braun tribe. She mentions that in her confessional after her talk with Katie. And we see Craig mentioning that these returnees have these big targets, including Connell. Um, how do you kind of see the balance of this tribe going?
I think that it's a lot more precarious than the yellow tribe. Like I think the bronze with their 4 strong are still are a lot less of a cohesive 4 than the 4 brains on the new yellow tribe. So I think that the dynamics it's like harder to pin down. I feel a little bit unsure exactly where it's going to go. I hope that Kayla and Haley are able to hold their own, and I think that um, I think that they can kind of push back against the Braun strength, but we'll see. I feel less certain about the dynamics on that team.
Yeah, we do see Craig kind of talk to Eric at the end of this tribe's kind of sequence and talk about potentially moving forward with Braun Tribe as well. Kind of talking with Eric about potentially kind of forming this group with Eric, Connell, and Shervin. Definitely an interesting group of people there. One thing I kind of wanted to talk about is Katie kind of exposing what could potentially be her biggest flaw in Survivor, which is that maybe she talks a bit too much. Where we see Eric bring her up as a threat just because she is so kind of vocal about what she's thinking about at all times. It's really kind of clear how much she's thinking and how much strategy she's kind of pouring into this game. And then we see her also divulge all the info on the idol to Kayla, who then goes right to Chelsea and kind of talks about it with that tribe as well.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't really thought about it like that. I mean, I think that I think it's a tough spot to be in when you're like alone. And I think especially because the Brains were so like collegial and so like cute and together, like there's a lot of togetherness vibes going on with the Brains tribe. Like I don't know if I was Katie, if I was in that position, I don't know that I would be thinking about like the potential for that information to be used against me. And I'm not sure. But I mean,
in fairness, she even brings it up. She's like, you know what? I'm talking way too much. They're gonna know what a threat I am. So at least she's aware of this and might potentially in the future be able to kind of downplay that threat, take a little bit more of a backseat position going forward, and maybe that will carry her further in the game. Yeah. Let's move on to this chaotic group of people now that we have, the Boast tribe. 4 Brain this time, 2 belligerent still, 1 bronze, Sydney being that lone person. And Sydney, I know we'll talk to her later, but maybe talking a little bit too much herself, mentioning to Keegan how much she likes the Brains, how much she wants to stick with them. How she mentions to even Kristen in this conversation that we see, oh yeah, we had a really tight 4 on that side with me and Chelsea and Shervin and Eric. Personally, if I'm hearing that, I'm like, okay, cool. You already have your tight 4. I'm not part of that. Kristen responds maybe a little bit more charitably. Is like, yeah, actually, this is great because maybe we can pull in those allies to our side come merge. What do you think of this kind of early development from the both side?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I get, like we've said in previous conversations, you never know what like one comment is going to kind of set off a whole chain of events, or like what thing it is that you're going to say that people are going to really stick to. And I mean, I think that Sydney, it sounds like, it looks like, said a couple things to suggest that she was feeling pretty close with her fellow Braun tribe members.
Really not much. And it was this tribal council, we see her emphasize like, hey, I'm not married to Braun. And plus I have intel over there. And this is kind of the pitch we see from her later in this episode. Obviously doesn't work. She receives 5 votes. Yes. But tricky for sure.
Yeah. What would you do like if you were in Kristen's position? Would you have read Sydney? Like, do you think you would have interpreted that as like as a potential for future alliances? Or
I think Kristen, I think from what I can tell so far, is a very capable and competent Survivor player. Yeah. I think even if you're like, hey, this is really weird that you're telling me this, you don't say that to Sydney. You are like, oh, hey, that's great. That means we can pull in allies later. Right. Not to set off any alarm bells or anything like that might be going on. But I do think just based off kind of first impression here that maybe Kristen and Sydney have formed at least a decent bond this quick into this tribe. So we'll see. And then we see another Brain member form kind of an interesting bond right away with Keegan and Malone, the 2 current holders of idols in this game, kind of having this cagey back and forth where they don't want to reveal too much, but they're like, yeah, we want to work together, lions and hyenas.
Yeah. Yeah, they're funny. It's funny to watch them kind of like tiptoe around each other. Like, when you're at the dog park or whatever, and you see like 2 dogs are meeting each other for the first time, but they're like, you're not sure if they're going to be friendly or like bark at each, like they kind of were sizing. They're
still like feeling each other out a little bit. Yeah, no,
yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
These are big dogs. These are big dogs who have a little bit of power, have a little bit of sway. And
I think they should both be wary. I think it's wise for both of them to approach with some caution.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. We see another pair here kind of meet up. Real life friends, Haley and Willow. Willow kind of talks in confessional after this conversation that she was really excited to have Haley on her tribe, but didn't feel like Haley was too stoked to work with her. Didn't feel like she was kind of as receptive to Willow's kind of advances to be like, oh, say a name and I want to work with you and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really hard, right? And I think with Survivor Calgary, like anytime that there are personal relationships, and I mean, I imagine with any like fan-based Survivor stuff, when there are personal relationships, it makes it extra complicated because there are like different dynamics and like different implications for like backstabbing somebody, right? That in the game. But I mean, I think yeah, I think it's interesting. I think Willow seems just like really sweet and kind and like thoughtful. I think it was very nice the way that Willow like was clear with Sydney and what kind of stood her ground about not voting for Haley. Who was the vote for Haley? Like, who was the person who?
So we saw right at the end of the episode, Keegan is asked by, like, the jury asks who voted for her, and Keegan puts up his hand.
Okay.
He was kind of that hinky vote. We did see kind of that discussion between Keegan and Malone before Tribal Council, where they're like, hey, Keegan basically shakes down Malone and says, hey, if you don't put a hinky vote on me and you trust me, you're safe. Which makes sense. He's the one who kind of has the power here to some extent. Yeah. Malone, clearly not assured by that, plays one of his idols here anyway.
Yeah, I think that was the right call. I think that was a safe
call. Actually, I did want to talk to you about this. Malone playing the idol doesn't receive any votes. You still think it's the right move?
Okay. I mean, I think that it is. I think that it was a wise call. It was a wise play from Malone, because it is far more often that we see, I think that we have seen in Survivor Calgary, a player trust their, alliances on a tribe, or the things that people are telling them, and they leave with an idol.
Maybe even two in their pocket.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that, especially because Malone has two idols, especially because the one that he played was expiring, I think, like, it's not like he is giving up all of his future idol protection. And it's like so fresh after the swap that I think it's, again, wise for him to be cautious and to not necessarily, like, that he hasn't necessarily established. There's not enough time yet for him to have really established enough trust. And things were so uncertain with Sydney's shot in the dark and like where all of that was going to land. I think it was good insurance. It was a good insurance policy.
For sure. Now, on the other side of the coin, Keegan does not play his expiring idol. He stops the Tribal Council, looks at Malone. Malone, did you do what I wanted you to do? Malone nods, kind of confused. Everyone else looks a little bit confused. And the Tribal continues. Keegan doesn't play his. Do you think—
I don't think I...
Oh, Kendal, cut out. Hold on. We'll wait for her to come back, maybe. All right, we'll give it a little bit of time here. In the meantime, I'll talk maybe a little bit more about one thing I wanted to talk about on this Boast tribe while we're waiting for Kendal to come back from maybe freezing up a bit. One thing I wanted to talk about is this idea that Keegan targets Haley here to make it a little bit harder for Willow to flip in the future, knowing kind of that personal alliance, that car alliance that was talked about. Hold on. I'm just going to send Kendal a quick message and let her know she has frozen. I'm sure she's aware, but just to make sure, she has now dropped off. Sorry, folks, technical issues. You know what? I'm going to call an audible. Let's get Keegan over here just for the next little bit to talk about this part, just because I did want to kind of discuss this tiny little bit of the app. Keegan is here live with me.
Proof that we just look the same.
Proof we are two separate people. Keegan, you were doing a lot of planning for this vote where you're talking about, oh, hey, we need to get out Haley. Can you kind of talk through your reasoning here?
The big thing I was worried about was not even necessarily the future. I was worried about Willow possibly going against the brain in the future with Haley around, especially if the vote turned to be on Haley after Sydney or Malone was gone. But the big thing I was worried about was just the shot in the dark or an idol working. And then the brains already said that they kind of wanted me gone. Or at least Malone told me that, which meant that I was probably next at risk if hinky votes are involved.
That makes sense. How much do you trust Malone here?
I want to trust Malone a lot. We're going to see something in the next episode that I think shows that I really wanted to trust Malone. And I end up trusting Malone that he did what I told him to do, because I'm more trusting his self-interest more than him.
He wants to keep doing this game because this lions on hyenas idea.
Yeah. So that's the sort of basis behind why I didn't play my idol and trusted Malone.
Welcome back, Kendall, everyone.
Sorry, my internet died.
Thank you, Keegan, for joining us briefly and being my second. So I just didn't awkwardly talk to the screen for a little bit here before we bring in
Sorry.
Sydney and Haley. Anything else you want to say on this vote kind of before we move on?
No, it was spicy. I think Malone was wise to play the idol. Happy Sydney's here. And sad that Haley has to go. That's all I got.
Sorry, I just remember what we were on. Keegan playing the idol. Good move or bad move before we move on?
I mean, it worked out for him, but I think that again, it was rolling the dice a little bit.
You would have played it, you think?
I don't know that I can say that I would have, but I, it's just, again, it's like buying insurance. Like, you don't think that, you buy it so that when shit happens you have protection, but sometimes that means you pay for an insurance policy you don't need. I don't know I've been thinking about employment insurance all day. That's why this is where my head's at. But
insurance equals idols. The Bose tribe equals ducks terrified with feet going under the water. Perfect.
Yes.
Let's now bring in.
I was just gonna say, I think I missed the interaction between Malone and Keegan, where like if Keegan was like, "Did you do what we, whatever?" And
definitely worth honestly a rewatch.
Okay.
Just watching back that last bit of tribal and just watching each individual player, just so much going on. The look of Malone's face as soon as he looks over and sees the safe on Sid's paper, then immediately reaches for his idol is just it's gold.
We need the zoom in perspective on that, But yeah, I think that's that. I'll have to go rewatch. But I mean, great for the Malone and Keegan trust, and their powerhouses. So we'll see where that lands.
Definitely excited to see them play further. Currently, our only two players of the week. Now let's bring in Woman of the Hour. We'll also bring in Sydney. Haley, come over. I guess the two women of the hour, honestly.
Yeah.
Haley,
can you hear me?
Live in Calgary. Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Okay, good.
Haley, first for you. How does it feel watching back that elimination, one vote going your way?
Well, I mean, I knew what happened because I was there, but I had no idea what was going to happen. I was excited. My hands were sweaty. But yeah, no, I mean, it was obviously sad to see. And I remember all of the emotions that I had in that moment of shock, anger, and all of the stages of grief were kind of happening all at once. But yeah, no, it was.
You're at acceptance now, though.
I've accepted it. I've taken many months, but I finally washed over me, and I accept my fate.
Nice, good. Sid, this feels like reliving back maybe a good moment, a bad moment. There's a lot mixed in here for you.
I don't know. It was really painful to watch back. I was not having a good time. I'm still stressed. And I just can't help but yell at myself on the screen. What are you doing? Why are you doing that?
What were the moments you were asking yourself that question, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, I think when the first interaction I have after we separate, and I just kind of stand there. I just don't say anything. I'm just kind of yeah. And I do no efforts to try and persuade anyone. Yeah, I think I just I feel like I had resigned a little to my position. I don't know.
You were ready to go home at that point. You were shocked to see that.
Yeah. I really thought
your blood sugar was low.
It's enough of this. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess looking back, you're always a bit more critical, and I feel there must. But yeah, I'm just shocked at my lack of effort. Disappointing.
Haley, I wanted to ask you this because you are eliminated with only one vote. Clearly, most of the tribe didn't want to see you go.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Keegan decided to send you home instead of, let's say, Malone or one of the Brains team members?
Well, I think up until that point, I hadn't really been, I guess the entire time, because that's kind of the end of my journey. But I hadn't really done a lot of aggressive is a bit of a harsh word, but like outwardly like competitive gameplay. Like it was I was very much taking a back seat. I to be completely honest, I understand how Survivor works, but like I didn't really
You didn't get it in the moment.
I didn't get it. I thought I got it. I didn't get it.
When you're out there, I totally get it. Just any sort of thought just disappears within 2 seconds of thinking it.
No, and I think I because what my plan was in my head wasn't like nobody knew what it was. I didn't even really know what it was. Like I had like a casual plan, but it was ever changing, and I think that that is not knowing where my alliances were and like how I could play that is threatening. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think that I was a fairly easy person too, because I had a lack of like alliances. I didn't really have any. I seemed like the person that if I was voted out, it would cause the least amount of repercussions. But I mean, don't know if I agree with that, but like I can see I can see that would be why that would be a cause of thinking.
Now, watching this back, you now know Malone has 2 idols. He plays one for himself. He does not play one for you. How does this kind of feel? Do you think it was a mistake that he didn't save you?
I mean, I like to think it was a mistake. I think it would have been. I wanted to keep being.
Would this have lit a fire underneath you to play maybe a little bit harder?
I mean, like if I was in Malone's shoes and I had 2 idols and I was in like a tribe where I didn't know anybody, and it was like everything, like there was a lot of uncertainty. Yes, there was that. There was the alliance kind of forming between him and Keegan, but like it was still pretty shaky. So if I was in his shoes, I mean, it would be kind of his values. I don't know if I would have played it on myself if I was in Malone's shoes. I mean, I think like in my headspace, I had Malone as an ally, but I can't say for certain if that's how he saw me. But yeah, no, like if he wants, like the number one priority is yourself, and you're in a space where you want to protect yourself first. So I might have saved it for myself if I was in Malone's shoes. Like,
did you know he had idols?
I had no idea he had a single idol.
Okay, so he kept that hidden from I think everyone but Craig.
Oh yes, yeah. So he did not tell me.
Sid, the start of this swap, you talked a little bit about kind of this first encounter where you're just kind of standing there. Keegan tells everyone, like, she told me that she was still with the Braun. Is this true? We don't see the footage of you saying, oh yeah, Braun is my best friends. I want to be with them forever and ever. But Keegan kind of parrots this point, and then it kind of spreads throughout the tribe. We see Taylor talk about it to multiple people. Is this something you said? Do you regret saying it if you did?
I think it's really interesting that there's no footage of it.
We lost a lot of footage, Sid. We lost a lot of footage. 160 clips from my phone were lost. I'm sorry.
I personally have no recollection of saying that. I'm just gonna like, I can't imagine someone in my position would just go up to like someone like Keegan, who I know has a lot of power in the game, and be like, yeah, no, I'm sticking with Braun. You know, like, fuck y'all. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, go for it.
Frick y'all. Like, I feel like I have beef with Keegan now, and Keegan, I want you to know that. I just feel like you bastardized my words, and then it spread this rumor throughout the tribe that ended in my demise. I feel like my words were
rumors are.
I think before that too, there was a lot of chat from the Braun tribe of like, oh yeah, we're gonna dominate this, we're gonna crush everyone. Right at that swap, we see them kind of talking shit to everyone. And we also see it kind of rub at least Taylor and Malone the wrong way. Just don't like them, I think, is the quote that Malone said. Was there any I didn't see any portion where you're saying this, but was that kind of the attitude of Braun going into the swap?
Do you mean after they found out what team they were on?
No, before.
Oh.
Before they were like, yeah. Everyone pulls stuff. We've got this plan. We're gonna get out Brain.
You know,
it didn't feel as certain in your mind.
Yeah, I feel like my memory's not so good. I feel like the whole weekend is kind of blacked out for me. I do feel like we were actually a really strong team. Maybe it's not maybe it didn't come across on camera that well. It came out like we weren't quite divided, but I felt going into the merge that I was like, this is my team, and like we're going to the end. It was like Braun strong. So yeah, I could see.
And then
like,
you said that to Keegan, obviously.
why would I say that? The strategy makes no sense.
Now, I think I remember you saying something along those lines, and then Keegan overemphasized it, but I could be wrong. I don't have perfect recollection either. One thing I wanted to ask both of you, we'll start with Haley, just because we don't have any latency on this end. Was there any sort of idea at any point to be like, you know what? We've got 3 of us. Let's try and figure out a way we can game this to get one of those 4 brains out.
Like between Malone,
You, Malone, and Sydney.
I don't think we really that would honestly that would have been a good idea. That would have been a good plan.
Yeah.
We saw Haley. We saw Willow come up to you and be like, "Yeah, do you have any names?"
Yeah.
And you just were like, "I don't know, man. I don't want to vote out. I don't want to vote at Sydney because she's good at challenges, and I don't want to vote out Malone because he's my friend, I guess."
Yeah. Honestly, how was it? You should play this game. You got some good ideas.
I played in season 1. I did fine, I guess.
No, I think that would have been that probably would have been a good move because I did know I was very excited to work with Willow and I was a little sad to hear that she didn't get that reception from me.
I think you were a little bit stressed out from the 2 tribal councils you'd already been to, and now going to a 3rd.
Also, like, I'm not great at expressing emotion. Like, it's not my strong suit. Affection comes hard. And so, yeah, like I think that, yeah, between like Malone, myself, and Sydney, I think that we probably could have done something with that. And I think that we probably could have gotten Willow on board. If would
have been a very, very different game potentially. We would have seen 3 idols on the or 1 idol on the other side, 2 on your guys' side, and maybe no shots in the dark are played. Now I did want to do a quick thing before we send it over to Kendal for questions. I have a dice here. It's a 6-sided dice. Just to re-emphasize the point of, hey, Sid won the 1 in 6 chance. Sid, can you pick a number between 1 and 6 for me?
5.
5. It's a 4. I don't know if we can see that on
bring it back
camera.
a little bit.
There we go. 4.
Okay.
So if you're playing Survivor again, I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah, I wasn't banking on it.
That's fair.
I don't think there was footage of it, but I don't know if you remember, Sydney. It was you, me, and Willow were chatting, and it was when we were like, I think I said to you, I was like, you need to search for idols. Like that's like your only chance. And then I know Willow brought up the shot in the dark, the footage, and I talked about it too. And I felt fine.
That might have been when we saw her run past Keegan and Taylor to look at
you literally, I said that and you like took off like a bullet. Like I'd never seen someone move that fast. But I remember saying that to you, and the reason I felt comfortable saying that because I was like, "There's no way that's gonna work." I was like, "It's fine, it's all good." Like it's the nice thing to do, but like
sometimes Survivor, you can't be nice.
The courtesy.
Kendal, do you have any questions for Haley or Sid here?
I have a question for Haley, actually. I'm curious because we've heard a couple of mentions about the Car Alliance and you're implicated in this theoretical alliance. I'm wondering if there's any like substance to that or if that's just something that other players were like making more of it than it was.
Listen, that 1998 Subaru Forester brought people together. She was a beauty. God rest her soul. Just doesn't belong to me anymore.
Oh, okay.
But
R.I.P.
It's I think that it was never spoken. Like I don't think that Willow, myself, Kayla, or Craig ever like made a specific car lines. I think that we made jokes of it on the drive up. I've been like, if we can, we should all work together. But I don't think it was ever explicitly said. Also been probably a good plan. There's so many great ideas. I don't know what I was thinking. It was nothing, obviously. Nothing going on this pretty little head. But yeah, no, so it was definitely not, unfortunately, actually acted on. So there was fears that were...
Well, that was one reason why Keegan was like, trying to gun for you too. He was worried about you and Willow teaming up.
Damn. I mean, honestly, I would have teamed up with Willow. That was the fair fear. And also, he can seem shifty. I was willing to.
I think you said to me directly after,
later on, and like you're on the edge or something, you're like, yeah, Keegan, he has a liar's face.
Oh,
I'm like,
I didn't say that.
I'm standing right here.
I forgot that I said that. Oh my goodness, and we're friends. Like, so
It's fine. We have different faces. It's all good.
it's true. You guys aren't. Yeah, good separates. I got a liar's face.
That's funny. Yeah.
Any other thing or any other questions to ask for Haley or Sid here, Kendall?
No, that's all I got. It was fun watching both of you play this week.
Anything either of you guys want to bring up before we kick you off the podcast?
You and I made the same face.
Quiet consideration, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I just never spoke at all, or if all my footage was lost. But I think that like I was in my own little world that entire time. I did no strategies.
Same. That's how I feel. I'm like, where was I? Was I just off, just doing my own thing?
You were filming Vertical Confessionals.
All right. I've heard enough.
Yeah, no, I think I did a lot of yoga. I made a lot of sandwiches. I was having a great time. I just wasn't playing the game.
Sometimes that's the best thing to do on a Survivor weekend, honestly.
It was great. I mean, yeah, like I think that definitely I could have, like, I wish I did a little bit more strategizing, and there's so many, like, I mean, hindsight's 2020. There's so much more that I think would have that I could have done that would have been to my benefit. And yeah, I'm just kicking myself a little bit, but also it's fine. It's
thinking back on it is always the most painful
part.
I
was like, I should have. I was thinking about voting for Keegan. I remember before I was like, hey, he seems shifty.
He's got a liar's face.
I don't trust him, and I shouldn't have trusted him. I just didn't want to. Yeah, I just didn't want there to be like a random like vote out there, and have nobody be like, oh, who didn't follow the plan if everyone else voted for Sydney. So I was like, I'm just gonna. I should have done it. Should have done it.
Sid, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I feel like maybe I don't know the footage. Maybe there's some missing footage, but I feel like there. Yeah, I'm gonna like
163 clips.
I'm gonna like really lean into that because I do feel like I had lots of I did have some conversations with Kristen and Willow in particular where I felt like I was trying to lay the groundwork for if, say, I managed to survive, there would be something to work off of. And when I saw everyone's faces at Tribal Council, I knew I had like an in that moment. So I was like, yeah, there was like stuff going on.
We definitely saw a little bit of those conversations for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely some interesting stuff ahead, that I promise. Haley, Sydney, thank you very much for joining us. And now we'll get to player of the week, I guess. Kendall, do you have any considerations for player of the week this week?
Okay. So I think there's really only two potential choices in my mind. Who do you think the choices are?
In my mind, the only two potential choices. Actually, there's three. There's three, in fairness. I think Sydney is a potential choice for having a successful shot in the dark. It's maybe not the most surviving. Maybe not the most strategic decision, but it is an impressive one.
Yeah.
And one that can carry you further in the game.
Yeah.
A lot of Survivor's luck. This is just another instance of it. I think Keegan is a potential choice. I know we've already named him as player of the week once, but him being able to hold on to his idol, make this sort of makeshift alliance with Malone, and get out Haley, who he clearly considered to be the least important person in his game moving forward. And then lastly, we have Malone, who also manages to save himself here. It's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. I think that like I'll say for the third week in a row now that I am impressed by Malone's slipperiness and how the slipperiness seems to not be like perceived as threatening as it is to the other players, right?
Knowing Malone, I think he would prefer the term rat, but continue.
Then we can go with that. He's very rodent-like yet again, very sneaky. and potentially disease rid. I don't know. Potentially very dangerous for other players and contagious. I don't know. I'm thinking about that meme that's like, who would win like a sick rat or like all of Europe in the 1800s or whatever. Like, anyways.
Malone's on top. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it feels hard if like I think that Malone, I think I have to give it to Malone because it was the most, I think that he made the best like actual decisions and like strategic moves in this game. And again, even though they weren't necessarily the like didn't necessarily lead to him being saved from being eliminated or whatever it happened to be. I think that he like secured trust with Keegan, who's a really strong player, like, and is an important figure on this new tribe. I think he has like proven himself with his new tribe in a way that's going to be really important and is hard to do. As we see with the other two, like with the Haley as the other belligerence person and Sydney as the bronze member, right? Like he's gotten in now a little bit more.
He did lose his closest ally on his tribe, but I guess he did form a new one. So I can give it. I think we're actually split for the second week in a row, but in the opposite way. Where last week I think I would have given it to Malone.
Yeah.
But this week I think I would have given it to Keegan. Same sort of difference either way. But we have our first two-time player of the week, Tyler Malone, the Beast from the East.
But my honorable mention would actually go to Sydney because I think that, as you said, Survivor is a lot about luck, but I think sometimes you have to like take the chances and take those risks. And I think Sydney doing the shot in the dark was like the right time to take that, to gamble.
Any guesses, predictions going into this next week here?
I want Connell gone. I don't know if that's a prediction.
I think that's good enough. I honestly think that's good enough.
I think he's a really interesting character. I hope he does well on the edge. That's my hope there. I would like to see Keegan like continue to do well. I would also, Willow seems to be stepping into her own a little bit, and I think I would love to see some more moves there. And yeah,
awesome.
I think that's all I got.
Thank you, Kendal. I'll say thank you to everyone who came here to watch the episode.
I have no FOMO at all. It's totally fine.
Oh, sorry. But you get to talk with me about it every week.
Yes, I do. I'm very privileged.
They don't get to talk to me about it.
And I booked my flights for season 4, so I'll be
there. Excellent. That's great news.
Yeah.
I guess we can confirm here now. Season 4 is happening. Nothing specific about it, but season 4 is happening. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us, Kendal. Thank you very much, everyone who tuned in. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.